Hello. So I went to a psychiatrist the other day and um, basically preliminarily diagnosed with adjustment disorder with mild to moderate symptoms of depression and anxiety, with possibly ADHD inattentive um, inattentive presentation. So, um, yeah, I I don't know. I'm still not really. I don't know. I guess convinced. I guess I am kind of convinced in a way. I think it's tough with anything brain related because I've only ever been inside my own head and like just I can't tell how other people think or what other people experience and mm, like for the assessments we had you just handed out like these. No, this wasn't all of it, obviously. It was ask questions, but also just like giving me some papers and so and stuff like that. And um I feel like you could just go on the internet and answer those questions really. But I mean, obviously, and also, I don't know. I feel like is Paul something that I'm kind of really trying to understand right now is this sort of suppression and kind of how that differs from just not having something. So, for example, like you know, my I feel like I can't hold a lot of like stuff in my head at the same exact time. Like if you told me to memorize like a certain number of digits or a number that's a certain length, like on the spot, like I would be able to remember a lot less than other people. Like if somebody hit my car and, they were driving off and I had to like, for my sake of like saving money and like, stuff, I'm supposed to memorize that license plate. I genuinely, you know, like I don't know if I could do that. Like I not to say like when I try to remember like a sequence like a license plate number, like I'll remember maybe the first part and then I'll get to the second part and then like I'll just maybe the first digit or so gets like foggy or just like the second gets foggy. And it's kind of this thing where it feels like it's like a part of it is, obscured and like foggy and I just can't, access it. Um, you know, there's other symptoms like being forgetful, and I have forgotten things in the past and such, but I used plan books and I've, made mistakes and punished for them. And sort of now, every time I leave a room, I check if I have my like keys or just like my, valuables. And so, on the assessment, it's kind of asking about the results. And so when it says, do you often forget things or like forget to respond to people? So I'm like, I put like maybe no and stuff, but, you know, at the same time, if I didn't do what I do, if I wasn't as vigilant or paying attention to these sort of things, you know, I think I probably would forget. And like, so like, I don't know. I mean, it's not fully diagnosed, so I mean, at least the ADHD part. So I'm gonna go for another thing soon, and genuinely, like, I can't stop thinking about it really because this is pretty. This would be pretty big if it was the case for me. Um, my dad kind of, or my family, we're very, or they're very, um, not like super results oriented, but like I kind of just don't. They kind of have, higher expectations, and I try not to like let them down. Um, but it's very just like do or don't. There is no try kind of feeling. It's just where it's like, you know, at the end of the day, you either perform or you don't. And like that's so I never really fully could understand or, you know, maybe fully empathize with people who, given these labels and they're dealing with stuff because, it seems just like the world doesn't care if something is harder for you than somebody else. It just cares about the output because that's what's measurable. It doesn't matter what you feel about something. Um, like when they can't measure that. Like, oh, nobody cares if you really hate doing this and you did it, but it's subpar output wise. Meanwhile, somebody else is like fine doing it. They do it, and they have energy to spare to like do it really well and like revise, and then it rewards them. It's kind of also really infuriating because it makes it feel like everything about hard work is like luck in itself. Like in the end, everything is just luck. Like even your ability to work hard, is honestly like based in part because of luck. What if you are born with a brain that you just get maybe distracted easily or you can't sustain your focus for as long. So, I mean, you can like force yourself to keep reminding or just keep going back and forth, but it's like you always have to recenter yourself. And then there's just people who it's just not as big of a problem. They can just kind of keep going in that sort of process. I didn't realize like executive dysfunction was a thing. I mean, like it's kind of very hard to understand when it's like if you want to do something, then like if you really want it bad enough, you would do it. Kind of, that's kind of how I thought about it. Um, I mean, there's things I've wanted to do and things, you know, like I can do a lot of things that are hard when it's like a lot of external pressure maybe, and I feel like that's been sustaining me. But it's like for my assessment, like my self motivation, I guess, was somewhat down, or it's like impaired, and even my biggest goals and like the things I've strived for and what I think my biggest accomplishments are, even if it was not directly another person set out this goal for me, I think it's this sort of external imagined expectation of myself and what I should be able to do based on what I have and what position I'm in. Therefore, I have it's like this even without other people, it feels like I'm not even self motivated with that. It feels like I am motivated by something external. Like I want to be, rich. I want to be like this guy who doesn't fall from the position I have, but like instead like use it and like multiply myself and like, if it's not just oh I want to like because I was privileged and I have like enough money to like not be hungry and stuff that I just want to like live a good life. It's like, oh no, like since you're given this, you obviously should be able to return the investment kind of and like, make either back or like back fold and like even if my parents don't explicitly say that, or even if like there's nothing explicitly making that, I've just been kind of guilty with, um, this position in a way. But then there's also stuff like, what if I do have ADHD or something? And like I've talked about before about like the racial piece too. Like, you know, there's actual like sort of things getting in my way from getting to this beyond just like hard work or just like and it's just really been pissing me off a lot because um I don't believe in like victimhood or like I at least I am a pretty like I'm pretty stubborn and I like to think I have agency and just you know dealing with so many like arbitrary things that are like stopping me from doing what I want, but yet like it's widely unacknowledged. Like realistically, when you bring up race as a topic, most people get like, it's like a sore spot and something that people don't want to broach and they want to pretend it doesn't exist or it's like fairer than, it is because it's uncomfortable. And I didn't really realize about ADHD or just these other stuff is like similar to that too because, you know, objectively the world is not made for those people. And, if your brain cannot sustain and you're given stuff, you know, that are not for you and you like need to take pills or something to be addressed or like to even function like a little bit better. And even if you do function by yourself, it just takes so much, out of you and apparently and you can't compare either. So it's like how do you know? You just end up thinking everybody else is just basically like low key like torturing themselves doing this stuff and it's just a matter of you need to do it. But then it's like, you know, then it's like possible that you realize it's not and then it's like what the hell? Like this is just not how it is for everybody. Um, I guess I am a unique individual. It's like we're not the same. All of us aren't the same. But, it just gets to a point where it's like, why is all of this shit like not working for me? Like on paper, I have, privileged background and, in America and stuff. But it's like all this shit that like is stopping me from like doing anything more than like a certain level is like just unacknowledged or kind of brushed under and it just even by family even by those closest to you and a lot of people just can't understand your circumstance even if you explain it to them they can't fully understand it they can't offer any actual helpful advice because they don't know what it costs or they don't know what's happening. So yeah, I'm gonna get the checkup in like a few days, and then I'll know for sure. Maybe it's gonna be fucking insane if I don't have it. And I just said all this, and it's like, then what the pro? What's the problem then? But yeah, we'll see. Thanks.